is their Cordoba creator of the Leicester equaliser. El Khanous, how much room does he have here? El Khanous going for goal, and he finds it as well. What a turnaround here at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
4 minutes, Leicester have soaked up so much pressure. Fatawi jinking feet to get beyond his man, and the header from Jamie Vardy makes it 2.
Wood should score. Wood Cannocott. Yes! Yes! Anil Cannocott has done it.
Tielemans lining one up. What a goal! What a brilliant goal by Yuri Tielemans! And the Leicester City fans go absolutely potty.
Ball in behind Damian Vardy. It's 11. It's heaven for Jamie Vardy. Hold the back page. Hold the front page. And Leicester player has smashed the record.
Evening, everyone. Welcome to Blue Tinted Glasses. It's time for the match analysis show, and we've made another signing. Well, actually, he's on the channel quite a bit, but we are joined by the legendary Sportsa himself. It's Mr. Josh. How are you today?
Not too bad, enough. Not too bad. Obviously, another loss for Leicester, but for once, we can actually speak about a different formation. But yeah, I'm all good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm enjoying the springtime weather. Puts a smile on my face. It's not as good as it was on the weekend. I mean, yeah, it was actually, I see all the people that went to the game actually enjoyed the weather, which I think put a smile on their face. And yep, JC saying to you, Josh, love the vintage look. I was quite impressed by that shirt as well. Type in the chat if you can guess what season it's from. I couldn't get it right, but there we go.
That's the sponsor, the old Walkers one.
There's your clue. There's your clue. Let's just get some comments in. Oi, oi, oi. What's up, Arrow? Let's go, James, and score a goal or we riot. That's what we need to do when we go on the pitch. That's for sure. But all right, let's get on with it. Let's talk match analysis. Let's go through this. And as Josh alluded to, there was actually something to talk about. Getting excited. Maybe that's going a bit too far, but we'll talk about that when we get there. So, on tonight's show, what we're going to talk about, the three main points we're going to talk about is a look at how the 5-3-2 played out, because that was obviously the big change. Will we ever score again? I jokingly just said to Josh there that the reason why we start the stream now with that video is because that's the only time we've scored a goal recently, so we have to do it. And I want to do a bit of a look at the return of Ricardo, one of my favourite players. And I think he made a big difference, even though he only made a brief cameo. And that could be a hint to what the rest of the season is going to be look like. But let's look at the stats. In the end, it finished 1-0 to Chelsea, which, sad to say, given recent results from Leicester, can probably be seen as a positive. But I think the defining stat you've got to say is still big chances 0 and a very pathetic XG. So before we go into the nitty gritty, you just said you watched back the game, Josh. What did you make of it? What were your feelings from it overall?
Yeah, I think it was obviously a little bit better than recent weeks, which is obviously not hard. You know, I'm talking the Brentford, the West Ham games especially. But once again, you know, it's a game where an opposition and an opponent hasn't really played too well, and you feel like Leicester have got that slight chance to get something. And once again, we kind of fall short. We don't really create too many chances, and it's getting frustrating. It's getting very repetitive. Defensively, I think we were better. Of course, you can tell from the stats. You can tell that from the scoreline. Obviously, only Chelsea scoring the one goal. Could have been more through the penalty, etc. But we're just not curating anything going forward. And you can defend as well as you want, but if you can't create chances, you don't take enough shots for starters, you're not going to score goals. And, you know, it's pretty obvious. We haven't scored since Tottenham away in the league, which is mental, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, I feel there's no more depressing thing as a fan, not only to be losing game after game, but not even to score. There's literally nothing to get excited about. I think luckily in this game, there was something to get excited about, but it was a penalty save. But we'll come to that in a moment. But I do agree. I'll give you kind of my thoughts on it a little bit later. But I will say this, though, just coming into this game. So this was Chelsea's lineup. And I did some maths on this. And how much do you think that their front six there cost to put in together? About 400, 500 million. Yeah. It's absolutely crazy, right? So Enzo and Caicedo there, they both cost over 100 million, which is ridiculous. So
that just shows you, we obviously had a massive difference between us and other teams in the championship, but we're getting it done to us now as well. So look, I'm not saying that obviously that excuses what happens, because Chelsea themselves, I agree with you, Josh. I don't think they played brilliantly. I think they played okay. But it's quite a big thing. And look, the fact that you got Dewsbury Hall on the bench, who was our best player, the fact that they had our manager, who was a good manager for us, and they both got taken away from us, is kind of a shame. But look, the big thing about it, if you don't know who this is, it's Plan B, because it turns out that Ruud, after doing the same tactic over and over, if not making it actually worse, came up with something new for this game. And this is what he came up with. He changed the system to a 5-3-2. So there were lots of surprises about this. I'm going to ask you about it in a moment, Josh, what you thought looking at this team lineup. But yeah, firstly, Daka and Vardy together. Well, if you're not scoring goals, put some more strikers in. Go a bit more direct. That makes some sense. He did still keep Bilal El-Khanous in there, Ndidi and Samari, but I think the big changes were Luke Thomas coming in as a left-sided centre-back. What? And Connor Cody making a return as well. So you looking at that team lineup, what did you first think about that?
To be honest, I was actually happy. Firstly, in terms of the formation, because it was obvious that Leicester obviously needed to change it up. I'll get onto the personnel a bit later. I think that's where the issue lies. But in terms of the formation itself, you could tell that was a 5 at the back. Obviously, when the team first got announced, we were all trying to decide where's Christensen, where's Luke Thomas going to fit in, and stuff like that. But I think it's definitely been needed. We talked a little bit about before in past shows that we do need to change. So I'm happy we have done. Just like I said earlier, I think it makes us a lot more, solid defensively. On the flip side, we're still lacking creativity, but even with the old formation, we're still lacking going forward anyway. So I think it's going to help us out towards the back. Obviously, we did that in the Great Escape season, switched to the 5 at the back, and it did help. So we're going to need a similar miracle, and probably an even bigger miracle than that this time around to stay up. But yeah, in terms of the formation, I think it's definitely the way forward. But personnel-wise, I think the likes of Christensen, Thomas definitely did surprise me when he got players like Cody, Koulibaly, who obviously came in January as well. Cody at centre-back as well. People would have expected maybe Vestergaard to come in. So I think it's always difficult to be good at the back when we're constantly changing the personnel there as well, especially in terms of the centre-backs, because that's the heartbeat of the team really defensively. I don't mind the odd change in terms of the full-back, but centre-backs, you've got to try and have some consistency there. But to be fair to Ruud, they've not been performing, so what can you really do?
Yeah, it's all about partnerships at the back there. It's very interesting. So yeah, I think I'm very much in agreement with you. We've got a lot of comments there already talking about some personnel changes that people would prefer to see. But I agree. I think no matter what, when I saw this, I thought, do you know what? At least there's something that's worth watching now. Because you know what? Even if we'd have played worse and we got battered trying this new system, I would prefer us trying to do something than just doing the same thing over and over. And I'm not going to lie, not seeing Ayew or Bobby Reid in the team, I also think is a bit of a plus. And yeah, look, I think the thing is that in recent seasons, we're trying to play this sort of slick possession football, and that's good in the championship. But this team is much worse than the team that got relegated last time. And so I think you just got to realize that we can't play that way. If we really want to get something, you got to find a different way to win. And we might not ever find that way, but if you keep doing the same thing, you will never find it. So at least we tried it. So, I just got this off SofaScore. These ratings should definitely be taken with a grain of salt. But why I wanted to bring these up is just to sort of show you that, when you're looking at tactics and formations, typically what happens is if you are going to play like a 5-3-2 or 3-4-3, however you want to describe it, is that you're not going to have as much possession of the ball in the middle of the park. And that's why you can see here that the 100 million pound men, Caicedo and Fernandes, pretty much dominated the game. So we're not going to have as much of the ball. You're looking to take your chances when you get them. So you maybe aren't going to get as many chances, but you might get higher quality ones. That's the thing of playing this sort of system. And Cucurella as well, he was stepping out to the wing where that helped him dominate. So that was the pattern of the game, and it kind of played out as you'd probably predict. But this, I think, was a nice thing to see. So here were the average positions of our players on the pitch. And I'd go as far as saying, Josh, that this is actually the most aesthetically pleasing average pitch positions the entire season for Leicester, which, I don't know, is a bit depressing, but it's also good. And what I'd say is if you look at this, you can actually see clearly what the team is trying to do. Everyone's in a good position. It's giving you fairly good coverage. I'd actually say it's the furthest forward average pitch position we've seen Vardy all season, with about time, if you ask me. I think the one interesting thing here, and chat, get your opinion on this as well, is actually looking at Patson Daka, who, is supposed to be the striker, but you can see he was really tucking in here and sort of using his pace. Daka, when we did the match ratings, he just kind of got average. People said he did the shift, but didn't really affect the game too much. But yeah, what did you think of that overall, with more context now and how the game played out?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's kind of similar to the formation we played last year in terms of the box formation. Would have never thought Daka would have been, the top right of that. But yeah, I think Daka's going to have to play that role. I remember the game against United in the FA Cup. He actually didn't do too bad in terms of the ball to his feet. So I can see why Ruud's gone that way. But obviously, Vardy and Daka are kind of both similar in terms of they're running in behind. So I think one of them would have had to drop a bit deeper to play the two up top. But in terms of the average positions, yeah, I think it's also just great to see Christensen and Justin just going a bit more further forward. I think the whole season, especially Justin, he's never really seemed to break forward too much. So it's good to see him and Christensen really trying to advance. And yeah, just like that, you can see what Leicester are trying to do. And it's the first game into the formation, and I don't think it's a bad start particularly. I know we didn't, in terms of create chances and whatnot, it wasn't there. But fundamentally, in terms of the positions and whatnot, you can obviously see it's there, and you can see it's been worked on, which is, at this point of the season, what more can Ruud do really in terms of the players he's got available? So yeah, I'm a big fan of it, and I hope we do stick with this going forward and don't just change it because obviously we didn't get the result on Sunday.
Yeah, well, Ruud interestingly has mentioned to Robert Tanner that he is going to be keeping that system. I think there's some good questions here. JC, so why play Daka in the right wing stroke attacking midfield role? We need more creativity rather than Daka if he's playing that role. I'm going to show you a little bit later on why I think Daka might have been used there. But I think that is a good point, JC, that if we were actually playing more of this sort of 3-4-3 rather than 3-5-2, that could have been Buonanotte or even Mavididi in that position, or even another player, other, to maybe get in there. But I'll show you a bit later why I think he played there. I think Josh has kind of alluded to it there as well, that it's also about doing the defensive work as well as the offensive work. And I will say that Daka is fast, which I think is important to kind of support the attack. So there we go there. And that's an interesting one. Daka and Vardy should be the other way around given their skill sets. Also, do you have West Ham's position map when they played 5-3 against? Will be interesting to compare. I won't get that right now, but maybe someone can take a look at that. I'll try and bring that up maybe for next week's game. No, because we're probably going to play that way as well. But yeah, I'm going to get into the nitty gritty. So even though we were playing that system, I wanted to look at our build-up shape. So the thing is, you can still see that we were trying to basically keep similar principles to the way that we had been playing, even though the formation was a bit different. So you can see that Cody stepped away, so he's like acting sort of as the two centre backs. We've now got the two full backs here. But I think this is why probably Ruud went this way. So he tried to play this way against Brentford, and what ended up happening is there were just two massive gaps in between the full backs, and just Brentford absolutely exploited us ruthlessly. But now, because you've got the wing backs here, and Justin, you've got Christensen, can't see him, but on the other side, it means that you can still kind of build with that shape. But if you are going to lose the ball, you've got a little bit more coverage. I think, going into this game, you do also know, though, that the way that Enzo plays is he's always going to invert one of the players, right, to create an overload. So I think that's probably the reasoning behind him. Duck, who isn't in the analysis today, but he did also say that in the game prior to this, Chelsea played FC Copenhagen in the Conference League, and Copenhagen also went for like a 5-3-2, and they really struggled to break them down. So I think he probably also learned a lot from that. But that's building up. But as you said, Josh, quite rightly, it's all about the defensive shape. So we haven't been able to defend all season long. If you can't defend, do you know what? Put an extra defender in there. It sounds so Barry basic, but it's actually true. And so here you can see that instead of defending in the usual 4-4-2 compact block, we've actually got, a 5-2, which probably should be the 5-3-2 system. Daka's just getting back here. So, what that means is that you've actually got someone here, Cody, that can actually sort of be the spare man, just pick up trouble when it arrives, a sweeper almost, if you remember the sort of 90s with Franco Baresi and people like that. So yeah, and that Chelsea, they're going to be attacking 5s and 6s up there, so it's going to give you that spare man to think it out. And so look, I think it's right. I think that you're right. I agree. I think we should keep the system going forwards because it should make us a bit more secure at the back. Now, of course, we did concede the goal in this game, but I think it was a pretty good goal that they scored. We'll look at it. I think maybe we could have done a bit better, but it wasn't just the usual sort of brain fart mistake. It felt more like, we were trying to get something. But look, this is a fair point. Ruud seems to only concentrate on defensive shape, and then we create nothing to get points. And I agree with you, JC, but I do think that if we go down, still ultimately, our defending hasn't been good enough all season. One clean sheet, I don't think any team stays up with one clean sheet. But look, again, going to the sort of way that we're trying to do. So with this system, we still wanted to keep the idea of playing through the lines. And I think Conor Cody deserves a bit of respect. He was pretty good at doing this. So I've got Mads here with the ball. He's going to pick it up, drifting out, you can see, to be part of the build-up play. We know he tries to do that. He's going to play a long ball down the middle. Now, this actually gets intercepted by Caicedo. Someone's mentioned it there before, but Moises Caicedo was brilliant in this game, to be honest with you. I think he's actually probably worth the money. He might well be the best CDM in the Premier League. But it comes back and we actually win the ball. So Bilal's got the ball here. And here's what I like is, firstly, you can just look at the body language. We don't see this enough on the route. People actually looking like they want to get forward. So we've got Ndidi and we've got James Justin, and they're going to get on their bike to support the attack. And fair play to Justin. I think here's the thing with the 5-3-2, right? So now we're attacking, and it's not often with Leicester that we are getting this many people forwards, which I think is what we need. So Ndidi's on the ball. 4 men in front of him. I mean, that's so rare these days under Ruud, which is depressing to say. It means he can slot in JJ. JJ's on the ball here. And again, look, we've now actually got 5 people forward here for this attack. 6 even, right? So this, I've been saying all season long, is why we've been so pants, is that a lot of the times we attack, and under Cooper, there'd only be like 2 or 3 people forward. Under Ruud, sometimes it's only 2, which is like, you're never going to score like that. But what I will say, what I think let us down all throughout the game, is that when we got into this position, you can just tell the team's not confident. And the lack of quality was there for all to see. So, look at this here. When JJ's got the ball here, this is like Enzo last season. We don't often get 4 people in the box, right? So this is actually a good opportunity. And we've even got 1 man back in case it comes out to him. But the cross isn't the best. It gets dealt with. And, speaking of the man that was there to pick up the pieces, it falls to him, which is Bilal. And then Bilal cuts inside and he has a shot. It's not the greatest shot in the world, but at least it's some attacking threat. So again, while I think we didn't really do much to score, I would say, just purely from a structure point of view, that this is way better to actually make chances than we have been all the way through. And yes, I agree with LCFC Ruud here, which is when you go to this perspective, is that why didn't he try the through ball? He could have gone to Ndidi or even just try and put it through here to one of the strikers. I think this is a bit greedy in my opinion. I think if this is someone like a Maddison or a Tielemans, even Buonanotte, I think they've proved that they can hit the ball from distance pretty well. But I think even the Moroccan fans that have joined the Leicester City family have said that Bilal finishing isn't his strong point. He did score a great goal against Spurs, but I think the fact that he's only scored 2 goals all season, that's something he's got to add to his game. A bit of KDHS. But let's also talk about Ndidi. So even though he was playing as part of that midfield too, he was also getting forwards at time too. And this I like. This was a bit of sort of like Enzo style of attacking the half space. So here we've got the ball in the touchline. JJ is going to take the throw. He's going to play it into Ndidi. And we're going to do a little bit of like passing to manipulate the ball here. So FaZe has got the ball, plays it into Samari. Samari has a nice little turn here. This is like one of the few... This is a collector's item, something that Samari did good in this game because he was pretty awful otherwise. We'll get to him in a moment. And we're going to do a little 1-2 here. This is actually Daka, who's kind of dropped back here to support. So he's trying to like bring the defender in to make the space behind him. And now it comes to Ndidi. Ndidi's going to get the ball, move forwards. And now you can see he's going to combine with Justin. So here's, I think, another good thing about having the sort of fullbacks or the wing backs. So I think with our wingers, when we have either Ayew or Reed, the thing about them is that they don't really hug the touchline, right? And they're not that fast or dynamic. So it just slows our attack down. But when you have people that have good engines on them, and like Christensen didn't have a good game either, but at least he can get up and down, quite routinely. So yeah, we used to do this under Enzo a lot, right? JJ's got the ball. He's going to play the ball here into the half space. Wilf is going to support the attack. So the ball's going to get played there. Wilf's got the ball here. He's going to go for the cross. And again, look, 3 people in the box this time. JJ is going to make up the space that Wilf's vacated. So again, whilst the quality wasn't the best, I mean, it's true here that this is what Ruud said there as well. This shot was our highest XG chance all time, by the way. Probably sad, but true. Now, what I will say, and maybe I'll ask you about this, Josh, though, is that, again, this is actually from like a build-up and structure point of view. It's quite a nice move. We've actually cut them open a little bit. We've got a decent chance here. This is actually not a bad chance. A cross from Wilf. I think he's a bit underrated with his crossing, but he is crossing the ball essentially to either Jamie Vardy or Bilal El Khanous. And it's like, is that a sensible way to go, do you think? I just ask you for your opinion.
No, on paper, no, it's not. But I think with this structure in terms of the wing backs, it's going to be through crosses in terms of chance creation, really. But yeah, it's difficult, really, because if you want to go through the middle to someone like El Khanous on the ball, you've got Caicedo, you've got Enzo straight on him there. So it's all about them. It's all about working a space. But I think in Diddy, especially, is going to have a big part to play in this system as well. Obviously, last year we saw him play extremely hard, much further forward, and start this season under Cooper. He did pretty well, in my opinion, in that more advanced role. So I don't know about you, Anil, but the rest of the chat, do you think in Diddy should potentially play in a bit more advanced position? But then again, you want his defensive bits as well. So in an ideal world, you want him doing both at the same time with a bit of a Kante engine on the move. We know he can get forward a lot, but I just think in terms of it, obviously his final product isn't the best in terms of his shooting and whatnot, but in terms of picking up the right positions, just we saw from that screenshot there, making that inverted run from JJ, I think that's the way to go really. In terms of them attacking midfielders, and you just want someone to sit there as well. Obviously, Samori didn't have the best games, but I think in terms of Ndidi, he's going to be massive. And since he's came back, he's been good as well. But in terms of, just like I said, in terms of the structural point of view, I think Croston's really going to be the way the system's going to work. And it's a shame, obviously, we don't have a target man up top. But last season, we did plenty of this, and it did work with the likes of Vardy. So it can be done.
Yeah, really good. You've actually done a little bit of a spoiler for something a little bit later with Ndidi, which we'll come to. That has great points. You obviously got the hive mind here. But yeah, I will say this. I think this is a really good point from Conscious. So this must have been the first match in months. You're right, literally months, where we had a cross into the box and we were man marked as opposed to being double man marked. Because quite often Jamie Vardy would have two people around him. But this time round, we've actually got it. We've got Daka here, just one person on him. Vardy's in between two, but you've got, I think that's Bilal behind him. So we've got a chance here of getting the delivery. Or if it does, but there was almost an own goal, which we'll get to in a moment, it could ricochet off. So there we go. It can work. Do we have the best team to set this up? Maybe not, but I think a more confident Leicester could score this. And we did score goals like this last season with either Dewsbury Hall or Ndidi by box crashing at the right time. Scarlett's also got a good point here. Didn't all game. I very much agree with this point. He is actually in the box for this one picture, though, I will say. But I'm literally going to show you an example where you're bang on, and I very much agree with you. And that is sort of the idea of this system, is that I've been saying it for quite a few weeks, everyone who listens to this analysis show regularly, that we don't attack with enough players when we get on transition. So here was a good example where actually this was the first time I've seen under Ruud where I can sort of see, okay, this is what we're trying to do as a team. We're trying to play through the lines, get to the byline, put in a cross, either score from the cross or get on the second one and win the second ball and score that way. And that can work. So that's already a massive improvement. And I actually do agree with you, Ruud, as always says. This makes me confident we might have a chance against Man United. Yes, I think playing this way, I could see us getting some points. Will we? Who knows? But we'll get to that in a moment. So that was one thing. And then I want to show this move. This came from JJ. Now, this is the importance of attacking with wing backs again, and people have got a good engine. So we've just got kind of like the ball's being played around the middle. Wilf's on the ball again. I think he had a very good game overall. And then the ball sort of gets into a bit of sort of transitional moments. It's actually going to come through to Cody. And Cody was in instead of Vestergaard, as you said. Now, I will say that I think when Connor Cody's looked good in any team, it's always been in the back three. That's always been his sort of specialist sort of trait. And I think you have to give him credit. So this is what he does really nicely here. So he plays the ball through Vestergaard-esque, you could say, through the line. So he's going to break up the first phase of the rest defense from Chelsea, plays it in. He plays it into Daka here. So this is one of the reasons why Daka was coming back. He was doing a bit more of the sort of false nine work as opposed to JV. He's playing it in out to Samari. Now Samari is going to go for a run forward, and it being Samari, he was a bit rubbish this game, if I'm being kind. It gets lost out, but it's a transitional moment. It comes to Wilf, and Wilf again, just first time. And this is something again that I think we've been lacking all season. We've been too slow on the attack. But you're allowed to be direct, Josh. You're allowed to play it quickly. So he plays the ball here. My arrow's not the best because where he actually plays it is all the way to JJ. And you can see JJ again with the engine, with the speed, with the tenacity, with the drive. He gets the byline here. Now, here's your point here about Daka not getting into the box. And I agree. That's where he needs to improve his work. Whoever's going to be supporting it, even if they're going to do this false nine position, this is Conscious' point. JV is absolutely surrounded by Chelsea players here, right? So it's going to have to be one hell of a cross and one hell of a header to beat the keeper here. But to be fair, JJ does play quite a nice ball in here. And it ends up, Tosin tries to deal with it, and it actually comes off the crossbar. And I thought for a moment, oh my God, have we actually got a goal here, right? But we didn't. But again, it was pretty decent. The ball could have gone anywhere. And look, to be fair, as the ball plays on, Daka does eventually get himself into the box. But again, there's only 3 people up there, and you need to get in there faster if we want to have any chance of scoring. But again, you can see what can be done with the wing backs in this system. I think JJ was pretty good in this game. I think if I'm being a bit, critical, Victor didn't do it enough on the other side. And of course, we're going to get to Victor's impact in the game, which was a bit negative. So that's our tactics. Now, obviously, I want to look a little bit about what Chelsea were doing. Cucurella was the one that we picked out on the sort of preview show. And again, he had a great game. And I do think that this might have been a bit naive, though, from Ruud, because the last time that we played Chelsea, again, their best player in that match was also Marc Cucurella. And he was doing the same thing he did against us, although it was Cooper in charge, in this game. And so what he did is he started off at left back, but actually he was becoming their left winger, and Sancho would drift inside instead. So you can see here, this is early on in the game, and you see that Cucurella's here, and he's going to try and get blindside of James Justin. So he's going to be that wide option, and JJ would be picking up. In this case, isn't Nkunku, but sometimes it'd be Sancho, it'd be the other player that was on the other side. But here, I got to say, this was early on in the game, and Luke Thomas almost absolutely, toileted it right from minute one, literally minute one. So here he's against Cole Palmer. He puts in a challenge here. And I think if you look at this, the angle's not the best here, but I don't know, maybe it'd have been soft, but I've seen these given, put it that way. So we got away with it, and it wasn't. And I do think otherwise Luke Thomas had a good game, but that was not his finest moment, because giving away a penalty 1.5 minutes in the game would almost be on a sort of Vestergaard against Everton-esque, badness. But speaking of penalties, and just want to say, Josh, do you notice how Andreas, LCFC Duck, aka Mr. Denmark himself, is not in this show? I wonder why. And I wonder if this might be one of the reasons why. So here we have Christensen, and he's up against one of Chelsea's players. And this is so disappointing, actually, what happens, because initially he's defending. You can see we're pretty well set. We've actually got numerical superiority. The player's going to go to the byline. I think it's Sancho here, isn't it? That's going to go there. And here, Victor's, seeing him out to the byline. Maybe he can get across, but he's actually doing everything right here, right? He's forcing him down, make it difficult for himself. So Sancho gets the ball and he decides to turn back. So now he's heading away from goal. And look at his position here. He's offering no threat whatsoever. We're very well set up. What's he going to do here? Play it probably back here and recycle the ball. And for whatever reason, what does Christensen do? Brain fart. Exactly. He did everything right and make him turn back. The attacker did dive as well. Very little contact. I agree, but it's still just absolutely brain dead what he did. I mean, look at this. I mean, why is he making the challenge here, right? Really, really stupid. Gives away the penalty, and here's a much clearer angle. He clearly steps on his foot, so that is a pen. I do agree. I do think that Chelsea dived a lot in this match. I think it's a bit embarrassing for a team that's worth that much money to do that. In my opinion, I think that might be the thing that holds Chelsea back, is I think they've got a bit of a loser mentality. I think it's the same with Arsenal, if I'm being honest. I think if I compare them to Liverpool or Man City in the past, like when things don't go their way, they don't just feel sorry for themselves. So Cole Palmer steps up to take the penalty. He hadn't scored, I think, in 10 games. And you're thinking, here comes Leicester. Here's your one. If you need to get your scoring record, your hoodoo off, come up to Leicester. Look at that. He'd scored his last 5 penalties. Believe it or not, Cole Palmer had not missed a penalty in the Premier League. But there is one player Leicester City have who definitely is Premier League quality, and it's another Danish goalkeeper. Mads makes a save. It's a good save. Love the reaction. That's what we could get excited for. It was, it's funny, superb save. I think it is a good save, because at the end of the day, not only does he save it, but he palms it out, right? So, sometimes I've seen keepers save it, but they palm it out to someone and they get the rebound. So he deals with it. But at the same time, if you look at where it's going, it's not quite in the corner. So I think it's not the best penalty from Palmer. But look, at the end of the day, we love Mads, and he did well. And let's be honest, Enzo will probably buy him at the end of the season. So he's probably earned us £5 million with that save alone, which was very good. But look, coming into the game, and this is exactly what you were saying, we did look solid, but here was a depressing thing. We had one shot on target, which was that Bilal shot, by the way. Chelsea had 10. We'd contain them. I felt like they didn't really look much like scoring. The penalty was, I wouldn't say it's against the run of play, but they hadn't really cut us open. But were we ever going to score? Not sure. So I'm going to talk about our blunt attacks. This is my famous now, my AI-generated Leicester City knife that can't cut anything, a bit like our attack. And unfortunately, I've got to give some people some pelters, and we're going to start with Buba Samare. I don't know what's happened to him. Everyone thought that when Ndidi came back, it would actually elevate his game to another level. But if anything, it's gone worse. I'm not sure why. So for me, Josh, I've shown you that I think the system worked quite well, in the sense that we did get into good positions at time where we could have created chances. I knew that playing this system, we weren't going to have as many of those chances, but they would at least be higher quality, which I think is the important thing. But what let us down all the time was that lack of quality. So here we've got Booba receiving the ball. This is now in the second half. And this is what his role in the team tends to be. He's the one that is like the guy that receives it and starts the attacks. And fair play, he managed to turn Palmer his man, and now he's on the attack. So Booba, when he's good, he is good at progressing the ball and carrying it. And here you've got Bilal. He could also pass it out wide there. That's Daka. So he's got options. But for whatever reason, he just decides to dwell on the ball, wait ages and ages. And Moises Caicedo steps in and robs the ball off him. And now Chelsea are on the attack. And luckily, because we've got the 5-3-2, we're not as exposed as we were before. So we actually dealt with this. But again, it's just that lack of quality, because if instead of doing that, in this point in time, he gets the ball out to either Daka or Kanoos, look, we've got 3 other people ahead of them. We'd be in a good position. So yeah, totally agree. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly of Booba. And there could be some other things that we're doing. And yeah, Mr. Magoo says play Bilal with Ndidi. That's interesting, but I'm going to give you another take on that a bit at the end of the show of what I think we could actually do. Later on in the game, Facundo came on, and here's another example. Look, I think Facundo's got so much about him that he could be proud of. I believe it or not, I saw there's a top 10 chart of players who've contributed the most goals and assists for their team. And Facundo is in that list, even though he doesn't even start games anymore. Yeah, because we don't score goals, right? So yeah, true. it's terrifying, but it shows you his impact. But again, here's Conor Cody with the ball. He plays it into Ndidi. Ndidi's got the ball, plays it through the lines nicely. Now Facundo gets the ball. And here we go. Look, again, we're in a great position. Facundo's got the ball. At this point in time, Mavadidi's come on. We've got JJ there on the right-hand side. So we've got plenty of time to attack. And what does he do? He dwells on the ball. He dwells on the ball. He dwells on the ball, and he loses the ball. And I think that's the frustrating thing. That's what Facundo really needs to improve his game, because he is too head down. He's got the ball here, and he's probably thinking, how do I sort of, show off my skills, which I get it. And he was very good at that in the early part of the season. But I'm telling you, if this was Maresca in charge, he would haul him for that. Yeah. Agree with you, Mr. Magoo. He does not pass, and it's just criminal because he's got an easy pass here and here. It's not even like it's a difficult pass. If all these people were man marks and he has to drive himself, then we haven't got a problem with that. That would even be the right decision. But it's just so frustrating because this is a really good opportunity for us. We are still outnumbered, but we could have done something with this attack. So again, it's the lack of quality. We lose the ball and we go there. And in terms of where there was, go on, Josh. Yeah,
I think it's all about the timing as well. So many times this season, there's been a clear pass, and it's like that Samori thing. We take so long to just make that pass, and it's just like you said, Anil, it's not a hard pass always. It's a 5-10 yard pass just out to the winger, and I think with Buonanotte especially, it's from the first game as well. I remember that game against West Ham where obviously we got the 3-1 win, but I remember he didn't have the best of games, and I think he's just. I don't know if he's like over trying to do stuff or make an impression on Rude, but he seems to just be, taking. Yeah, exactly that. And he's trying to do too much to make stuff happen. And I think, especially for his type of player in that curated role, just take the easy pass. It's not even easy, but just make the pass and be creative instead of trying to do it yourself. And it's so frustrating when you got, I don't know who's on the right there, but, it's just a clear option.
Bobby Reed actually there.
Well, mate, I kind of understand.
That's why he's not passed to him.
Yeah, exactly. That's why he's one of them. But let's say if it was, I don't know, Ricardo or someone who got forward from right back or something, maybe. But even so, just make the pass, and it's the same thing all game. Even when Ayew and Declan replay, there's so many chances when they can pass the ball, make things happen, and we just kind of, take our time on it. Chelsea can reset, and the attack's pretty much done. Because just like you said, we're having limited attacks, and when we do get forward to have them attacks, it just breaks down in a matter of seconds, which is so frustrating.
Yeah, we got to make them count, that's for sure.
Exactly.
And I agree. I think he's trying too hard to get back into the team. That's certainly what it does. And Scarlett, you made an interesting comment there. I've started it. I'm going to come back to the end because that is very similar to what I think we should do. So someone who is good at quality and making the most of your free man is, of course, our former manager. Do you remember that when we won the championship? Going to be back there next season, lads. So you're going to remember it well. And of course, Mark Cucurella, he is the free man. He's their most pivotal player. He's the one that's always free, not necessarily a free role, but he's going to be the one that adds some space. So look, again, in classic Leicester City fashion, it starts from a Leicester attack. So Victor Christensen's got the ball. He's going to play it long and gets dealt with this time by one of, I think it's that Favanos here, but another one of the defenders is that's Tosin at the bio. He wins the ball. It's going to fall here now to Enzo Fernandez. So they're on the ball. plays it into Sancho. Sancho's got the ball. And here, look, again, though, if you look from a defense, so yeah, what I want to do here is, this is what I think you've got to appreciate Mark Cucurella. And I think it's funny because Chelsea fans, like, I'm not being funny or anything, but they don't understand their own team, which makes me laugh, to be honest with you, right? They don't respect Cucurella. They don't understand what he's in the team for, even when he scores goals. But in my opinion, like, he was really good in the Euros that just went, Mark Cucurella. Yeah. And there's a reason why he got into the team in a tournament. And he's playing a role similar to what Ricardo did for us under Enzo, where it's quite a complex role. So you can see at this phase of the attack, look how far back he is. So that's why he's not going to get picked up, because with our defensive shape, look, we're very well spread positionally. Like, if I'm looking at this from a coaching perspective, there's nothing wrong with what Leicester are doing. Same thing again, as the move progresses. Look at that. Really well set up. It's going to be hard for them to get through. It's going to have to take something special to make through. So ball's going to get played out to Cole Palmer. And again, look how far back Cucurella is, right? So it's not like there's even should be a man picking up on him. What Enzo's doing is he's going to create that space because you're not expecting that person to join the attack here. So Palmer, of course, is always going to be him. He's going to get the ball here, drops it off there to Mark Cucurella. He's got the ball here. And, you know, a lot of people here would say, okay, do you know what? We could have done better with this goal, which we could have done. Like, you know, could Ndidi have closed him down? Could Wout Faes have closed him down? Could James Justin have closed him down? And maybe all of that's true. But I think if we're being honest, right, because he's joining, look how far he's come back. He's running onto the ball. He gets it here and he pretty much hits it first time, right? And you can still see that we're pretty well covered. And he not only hits it, but he hits it right into the corner. You can just appreciate the strike here again, like how good it is. That, look, I think it's disappointing to concede the goal. But I think, again, if you look at it here, sometimes you've got to say that was a pretty good goal. So I think this is one of the few. The last time I can really remember something like this was, do you remember Ryan Yates for Forest scored something similar to, oh, no, yeah, that was a good goal from him. Actually, the one I'm thinking of is Ross Barkley for Villa, where Vestergaard did the header. It wasn't the best clearance, but it wasn't like it was awful. And Barkley just half volleyed it in. And that's been like, okay, welcome to the Premier League, right? Exactly, where people are quality. So this was unlucky. But yeah, good quality. But that's what you can see. Enzo's clever. He always finds a way. And that's what he managed to do. And that made it 1-0. So I will say with Ruud, he did make subs. I think he didn't make the subs fast enough. So you can see that when did they go ahead? They went ahead in the 60th minute. He actually waited for the 66th minute to do anything. And the only thing he did was change wings for Samare. And it wasn't until sort of later in the game. I think the pivotal thing was actually when this man came on, which we're going to come to at the moment. So I think, again, if I'm being critical, after we went 1-0 down, we didn't look bad. But again, we never looked like scoring. And we didn't really go for the jugular fast enough. I think at that point, he needed to make 3 or 4 subs immediately because there's only one way the game is going. You know, that Enzo's teams can control the game pretty well. But for me, Josh, I don't know about you, but I always like this site. It's seeing one of my favorite players over the last few years. Ricky P is back. Nice beard. Comes back into the team. And how are we going to use him? Now, I thought because we had Christensen, Luke Thomas, James Justin, and then Ricardo on the bench, my expectation was that, yeah, I did think we were going to play for the 5-3-2. And I thought, that means that probably Ricky P is going to come on as a wing back for Justin when that happens. Now, he did come on for Justin, but actually, you can see here that he played basically what we were doing under Enzo last year. So he was inverting and he was playing next to Harry Winks. And here's that further proof of that. This would be the same sort of thing you'd see all season last year where the two of them are playing. He's joined in from the right back position. And even more so, you can see that when they play together, the thing that was noticeable is that, you know, he actually was playing right alongside Harry Winks for the bounce pass. And JC, yeah, he looked better in this game than in a cup under Cooper. And that's because under Cooper is playing a different position. He was playing as a right centre-back in that game. But this was the position that Enzo moulded him into. And I've got to say that I think it had a big impact. So here's this move. And this move, again, was very reminiscent of last season. So Ricky's on the ball. He's going to play it to his mate Winks. Winks plays it back to Faes. Faes is going to lay it out here. That's to Ndidi. Ndidi's got the ball. You can see now that Ricardo, he's going to push forwards here into this space. Doesn't come there. Plays it to Winks. Winks plays it first time. So yes, his first time, smooth football, maneuvering people around. He plays it into Ricky P. And now Ricky P can drive forwards. And this is sort of similar to last season where, you know, he was at times joining the attack to be the extra man against the teams that part the bus. And yeah, he gets the ball and has a shot. I think maybe if I'm being a bit critical, could he have found Mavadidi? We'll see. And he tests the keeper. So that's actually one of the few shots on target. But that was actually some nice play. And I think this is interesting. I've said that I think Harry Winks has been a disaster this season. I think the fall off from him has been almost embarrassing. And I think it's because he was upset that Enzo left. And I think he really liked the system where he played. But I will say that it was noticeable that as soon as Winks and Ricardo were playing next to one another, that we looked a lot better. And I mean a lot better. Now, there's pros and cons about that. We can discuss that all together. But here we've got an example. So Winks has got the ball, and for once, he's going to drive forward and look really to take the game to Chelsea. Lays it out to Mavididi. And I think another thing that I want to point out is, again, with the sort of Enzo system, is look how wide Mavididi is, right? Look how wide Bobby Reed is. This is much more reminiscent of last season. I think the only thing is we're missing a player here, right, for this to be the true front five from last year. But anyway, yeah, again, look at the shape here. So now, actually, Ndidi is joining attack. And this is almost bang on from what we saw last year, right? Where you'd have these sort of players. Maybe the winger here, this would be Fatal, and he'd be really high out wide. So Mavididi is going to play it in, and, you know, he actually recycles the ball back to Winks. But this, again, you can see that these two have a connection. So now this is one of the few times that Winks and Ricardo are quite far apart from one another. But Winks knows where to spot him. Ricky P knows how to look. That plays brilliantly. He's in between all the spaces here, in between the zones, picks up the ball. And again, look at the attack. And again, if Facundo maybe got on this bike a little bit to join here, it'd be very reminiscent of last season with the attacking five. We scored a lot of goals last season, right? So Ricky P gets the ball. He's going to play it out, and he plays it out to the wing here. I've got to say that you can definitely tell that Ricky was a bit rusty. It was not his best pass, I would say. To be fair, he played it with his left foot. So he plays it into an area that isn't necessarily the best. But fair play, Bobby Reed gets on the ball. He charges in. And actually, could we have had a penalty in this game, Josh? Well, take a look at the photographic evidence. Cucurella kicked the ball, and he did kick the ball out onto his own hand. And his hand is not in a natural position there. So I think it's an interesting one, right? Yeah, that was a penalty, surely. Did we deserve it? Probably not. But was it a penalty? Under the rules of the game, I would say yes.
Yeah. It's pretty stupid, isn't it? It shouldn't really be a penalty, but based on the rules, yeah. I mean,
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is his hand doesn't need to be out there. That's the thing. And if he had his hand down by his side. So, you know, Bobby Reed was going mental, and he was quite right to, because, you know, I'm surprised they didn't look at it under VAR, because I think under VAR, we would have been given this, in my opinion.
Top six
so,
pass.
Yeah. Knowing us, we'd have probably missed it given our current form, but that's what you can say. But yeah, look, I'll say this, that then as the game ended, against Chelsea, 79% possession we had. And that is the Ricky P and Harry Winks effect. And it wasn't just sideways football. You can see there that Ricky P's had a shot on target. We could have got a penalty there. We were actually starting to ask questions. And I remember saying to the boys in chat, going, man, it's a bit of a shame that the game is ending right now, because honestly, and this is a collector's item given this current Leicester City team. But I think if this game would have gone on for another 20 minutes, we would have scored another goal, right? Because that's how the flow of the game was going, and Chelsea were just trying to see it out and get the points. Now, you could say that maybe they were sitting back, but I think it's still kind of weak for them given how high quality their squad was. So, you know, there you go. So, look, that's how it ended in the end. 1-0, as we say. We didn't really make any big chances, though. So, you know, maybe it is a bit crazy for me to say that. That said, I will say with the Chelsea XG, a lot of it came from that penalty that they missed. So at half time, they had like 0.9 XG, because basically saying the penalty should have been a goal. So they themselves only created 2 big chances the game themselves. Look, we had Enzo as our manager as well, so we know what it can be like sometimes there as well. So they dominate the ball, but maybe don't create so much. But I think there were things to sort of enjoy about that. So I'll ask you for your opinion, but my match thoughts then, having seen it, definitely good to see Rude try something different. Defensively, we were way more stable, but I do have to say, I think Chelsea, you know, they play this quite slow and methodical style. And I think that's an ideal game for our Leicester City team, right? Because they don't have to run around too much. I think the teams that are always going to cause us trouble are going to be those teams that like can play it fast and direct on transition. So God help us when we play Forest near the end of the season. They might be the game that relegates us. You know it's going to happen. That is probably the team that would be them, Brentford, teams like that. Newcastle, they're good at doing that as well. Those are the sort of teams that I think cause us the most trouble. These sort of teams that try and play it slow and technical. Like, for example, I'm not surprised, for example, against Man City that we played quite well. Because, again, I feel like their sort of style of play should suit our style too. But we created some good moments structurally on transition, but the quality of delivery was awful throughout. So, at the end of the day, our XG for this game was really, really low. As you can see here, 0.1 is awful, absolutely awful. But what I will say is it's a bit misleading in this game, because I felt we got into positions where we should have turned that 0.1 into a 1, at least something like that. I'm not saying we would have scored, but we let ourselves down in that area. And the big thing here, I would say, is I think Ricardo and Winks playing together allowed us to grab hold of the game. And that's actually what I think I would do in the next game, because I think Samari's off form. I would put Ricky and Winks in together. I would keep Ndidi in the team. I'd play him as one of the 8s from last season. And I think I played Bilal as the other one. But what I will say is, if we play that way, how is that going to work against some of the more physical teams? Because we could get bullied there. But our next game is against Man United. They've got a pretty slow midfield themselves. So I think that system could work against them. So that's what I would try. Scarlett mentioned earlier, I think this system would work better with Winston for Booba and Mavadidi in for Daka. And I think that could be the other thing that I would change as well. What I will say, though, is that even though we started this system, you can see that at the end, Mavadidi, playing more as the wing. Was he a left wing back? Was he a winger? 3-4-3. I think he's good in this position, is what I'd say, because he's an attacking player, right? He can beat a man, he can put a cross in. But yeah, maybe instead of Daka, it could be Facundo if he actually looks up. I don't know. So they're my thoughts. But what did you think of it overall, Josh? And where do you think this leaves us for the future?
Yeah, I think all them 4 points are pretty spot on in my opinion. I think the main thing now is to bring it into the next game, because so many times this season, we've played well against the Arsenals, the Man Cities, the Chelseas, but and the week after we go and lose 4-0 to some, mid-table team. But you know what I mean? Like, even after Tottenham, you won and lost 4-0 the game after. But yeah, I just think it's important to bring it into the next game in terms of the formation, the energy in the team as well, to actually battle and be a bit better defensively. And I think Man United at home, as strange as it still sounds, is a pretty good game for us to have. Obviously, we've played them so many times this season. Hopefully we worked out how to beat them, and obviously we got a bit unlucky in the FA Cup one last time. But yeah, I think the final point is probably the most interesting one in terms of how Ricardo comes back into the team. To start the season, we all said, is Cooper going to try and play the Enzo system? You're going to get rinsed at the back. But at this point of the season, in my opinion, I say we just go for it. We're in such a bad place already. We're pretty much down already. So even if it gets any worse, we'll finish 20th instead of 19th. We might as well just go for it, in my opinion. The players seem to prefer it. I think as fans watching it, it's probably a bit more enjoyable. And, I think having Ricky in the team especially, I'd even suggest the idea of Ricardo playing even further forward, because I think in terms of his technical ability, he's got a decent shot in him for a right back as well, and the way he can win the ball back as well in high areas. I think he'll suit that, and I think him playing alongside Winks, that connection's there. You got Diddy, who I mentioned earlier, who in my opinion can still do a job playing a bit further forward. And I think if you have them through midfield, it allows someone like El Khanous to really flourish and have a bit more less defensive responsibilities. So I think this system's the way forward to go. But as Tony says, we're still 8 hours without a goal. So who knows? But yeah, I think we stick to that formation and try and play like we did last year, a slight bit more, because can it get any worse? Maybe it can. I don't know.
It probably can't, to be honest. But I mean, yeah, I agree with you that. I mean, I've brought up all the fixtures. So you've only got 10 games left now. And I think the worrying thing is you've got to look at these games and say, which of these games could we realistically win? So I think you're right. The next game is against Man United. And I think compared to other fixtures we've got, that one, we've got to attack it. We could maybe win that game. Next up then is Man City away. I mean, they've not been as good this season, but I'm not expecting much from that one, I'll be honest with you. Then we play Newcastle at home. And I think they actually battered us the most out of any team this season. It didn't help putting Danny Ward on in the second half against them, but still wasn't great. Brighton, now we got a 2-2 draw against them. I think we probably should set up to try and attack them here, but I think they'll beat us. But I would go for it. I guess what I'm saying is against Man City, probably don't go for it. Against Newcastle, even though we're at home, I guess we do have to go for it, I suppose. But how many of these are winnable? I guess what I'm saying is I can't see us like Liverpool. We're not going to beat them. And then the final 5 games of the season, even these are difficult. This one's a depressing one for me, the Wolves one, right? Because for me, actually, I thought we were relegated the previous time that we saw Wolves, even though, believe it or not, after we lost to them, I think we were still 3 points clear of them. And it was just because not only did we lose, but we basically gave them a game and they were 3-0 up at half time. And I just thought, if this Wolves team that every time you see them is so honking, but they're still as honking as they are, they're massively better than us. It's just depressing. Do you think we can get anything against them?
We've got to, but I feel like that type of game, Leicester just seems to crumble. Do you know what I mean? Like, hopefully it's not done by then. Let's say it's not. It's going to be a massive game. It'll probably be on Sky or something. And I just get the thought that Leicester will lose 3-0 again, will crumble under the pressure. But in my opinion, that game, just like that comment says, he probably got us relegated before the season, and that could well be the game which secures it this time of the season.
Yeah, there's some grim stats being brought up here. Yeah, Rude at the moment is, I think, the third worst manager in Premier League history. Yeah, and Cabas here, I love this. He goes, got to commend you lads for being able to create hours upon hours of content of 0 goals scored for how long now? Yeah, let me tell you, it's brutal. And in some ways, I think, well, if we went to the Championship, at least we'll see goals.
More enjoyable.
To be honest. Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe that is the way. And then look, then we got Southampton. I mean, yeah, here's the funny thing. Like, people say, will we ever win a game again, or will we ever score a goal? And I suppose just because we still got to play both Southampton and Ipswich at home, I don't even know if we'll beat them, but they're going to be the games that all three of those teams are going to be battling for, because they know they could get something out of it. But yeah, the ones that worry me, I mean, look, I think at the start of the season, I looked at this run-in and I thought, you know what, that's pretty good. We might have a chance. But now Bournemouth are playing so well, they might be battling for the Champions League on that day. So I don't think we're beating them. Forest, oh my God.
It's going to be horrible.
We could be relegated in that one.
Exactly.
Yeah, I suppose if we lose to Wolves, we'll probably be relegated before that, but it could go down to that. But yeah, look, I think we could get, I suppose if I'm being super optimistic, my blinkered, literally, if I get my blue tinted glasses on here, what do I think? I think we can beat Man United. I think we can beat Wolves. I think we can beat Southampton. We can beat Ipswich. That's 12 points. Maybe we can pick up another point. Let's say we get a point against Bournemouth, a point against Brighton. I mean, I need 2 blue tinted glasses for this, Josh, to be honest with you. But what that would be 14 points. That would take us up to 31. That probably we still wouldn't stay up with that amount. No. But, look, I don't think we're going to get anywhere near that many points, to be honest with you. But maybe something could happen. Well, that's it. I want to wrap up the show, but I just want to give a special shout out again to my guest here. It's Josh Sportsa. If you haven't already, I've got the link to his channel in the description. Go over, send him some love. What I love about this is if you look at his channel, he just gets slowly more and more depressed. Like when you get old, you can see him just, losing the will to live as he watches this listed. Yeah, I love it. Blue tinted telescope. That's what you need right now. Yeah, do show Josh some love. Always awesome to have you on the show as a guest. Yeah, you got great insight as well. And I want to get your opinion on it. And I think just before I fully wrap up, then finally give me your thoughts on the rest of the season. And maybe I haven't asked you this. Would you get rid of Rude? Or let's say that the club don't, would you keep him for next season? Because I think that's the big question on a lot of people's mind. And, just got to call this out from Tony. He's quite right to do this. Scored 4 and conceded 32 in the last 13 games. 14 weeks without a goal or point at home in the league.
Yeah, exactly. Well, personally, I would. Let's say we do go down, which is obviously a massive possibility. I'd rather get someone else in. But the thing is, I don't know who that's going to be. And if Leicester don't stick with Rude, they've got to get that appointment absolutely bang on, just like we did with Enzo. Because if we don't, I could genuinely see us. I wouldn't say as bad as Luton this year, but I can see us struggling next season. So. Yeah, I think it's going to be obviously you're going to have to pay Rude off, etc. If he wants to stay. Obviously, he said in a few press conferences that he's going to fulfill his contracts or whatnot. But would Rude want to stay in the Championship? I don't know. But yeah, I think we should probably change managers going into next season. Probably even if Leicester somehow do stay up. I don't know. I like Rude at the start, but I just think there's just not much about him really in terms of the system or whatnot. But yeah, it's one of them really. Obviously, there's been some weird rumours on Twitter today about an interim manager. I don't think there's much point doing that either, because just like Anil says, and looking at these fixtures now, even if Leicester can win, the likes of Southampton, the Ipswich, the Wolves games, it's still not going to be enough really, because it's pretty much a 7-point gap to Wolves due to our goal difference. So. Yeah, it's no hope really. So yeah, just put it simply, I'd say get rid of Rude, go into the Championship next season. But the thing is, Leicester have to get that appointment absolutely spot on the money, and it has to be someone who's, I would say, is similar to the style of Maresca.
Any idea on who that would be?
Honestly, I don't have a Scooby Doo. I'd honestly go. I'd look at the route going down. Maybe an assistant from a top club, something like that. I know there was talk about. Ancelotti's assistant something along them lines, do you know what I mean? So
no, that's all fair enough. I mean, I've heard that Southampton are being linked with what's his name? Danny Roll from Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah.
Kabas says here, could see us signing someone like Russell Martin. We'll be getting like Enzo Maresca of Timu, which is maybe true, but you know what?
I think it'd work.
Yeah, controversially, I think if Russell Martin was in charge of us last season, we probably would have still got promoted as well, in my opinion. I just think that but it'll be one of those things that, again, you might get promoted to the Premier League and get found out. But look, we'll see. For what it's worth, my opinion, I think I would agree with you, Josh. I think, look, I can accept team getting relegated, but there's a way to get relegated. And this lack of having a go is not for me, right? You've got to have something more about you. That's the weakest thing, you know. So I don't know if somehow he changed it. It goes Ricky and Winks, and all of a sudden the team looks way more aggressive in every game. We do pick up a few wins, but even we still get relegated by a fairly large amount of gap between us. If that happened, I might change my mind a little bit. I might be like, oh, okay, at least he sort of learned the error of his ways. But it's like, you know, you're a fan, right? Ultimately, this is entertainment for us, right? And there ain't nothing to be entertained about. That's the worst possible thing, right? That, I think, for me, is like absolutely unforgivable when you just, you know, take the joy out of watching football. Then you just, I'll be honest with you, if we weren't doing this fan channel, I think I would have already binned off this season, to be honest with you. And it was like such a nice day on Sunday. Like, do you want to watch us lose to Chelsea, or do you want to go out and have a nice day and go to the pub? You know, there's something to do. I mean, look, fair point here, it's only 8 players started Sunday who took us down. And that's the thing, is our squad quality is pretty weak. But I still think that you'd expect a manager to get a bit more fight. You know, I've played in games like that as well. You're playing teams that are much better than you. You lose, but at the end of the game, you think to yourself, do you know what? We actually played pretty well today, lads. And the other team even are like, wow, you know, it was much harder playing against you than this other team who's second or whatever like that. You know, that you can definitely get that. So that's what I would hope to see. So yeah, what's coming up on the channel? Live calling shows on Mondays. Yeah, so we've got Fox's Den tomorrow. We're going to have the match preview. That might not actually be till Friday this time around, because the weird thing is that our next game is on Sunday and it's a weird time, isn't it? It's like 7 o'clock or something. 7 p.m. Yeah, really weird one. So I've got that one wrong there. So do tune in for that. Then it's international break. But yeah, look, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, do like the stream, subscribe to both Blue Tinted Glasses and to Sportsa, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Very good.